The following is a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.
Crossed Flags, a racing podcast. It's your midweek fix for racing news and information. Brought to you by the Championship Racing Network. Now let's head trackside to join your hosts, Steve West and Matt Nicholson.
Welcome into the latest July 4th week edition of the Crossed Flags podcast. And yeah, there's a reason why this podcast episode is named This Show is a Mess. It was a mess last weekend on a number of different fronts. So we're going to get into that here in just a couple of minutes. A couple of soapboxes about ready to go. Real quick, no big updates on John Force. Real quick, we talked about this a little bit last week on the podcast, talked about it a little bit during the weekend show as well last weekend. And the latest that we've heard is that he is now awake, responsive. He is responding to verbal commands. He's responding to his name, things like that. And that kind of goes down the line of what it was that we were talking about, both on the podcast and the big show on Saturday, in the fact that, yeah, we were pretty concerned, especially when they said they were moving him to neural ICU. And that came after the podcast last week and kind of confirms that was serious enough to the point where he probably had a pretty bad concussion. We're hoping it's not so bad that it takes him out of it and he's able to retire behind the wheel under his own ways of wanting to do it. But we always want to make sure that when it comes to this thing right here, take very good care of it. So John Force still in the hospital, still in the neural ICU in the Virginia hospital where he was taken last week. We still have our thoughts and our prayers out for him.
For sure.
All right, so let's get into the mess. Shall we?
Yeah.
I'm going to lead off here by teeing off because being in the business that I'm in, and Molly, our producer, is in the same situation, she's going to understand real quick that I become very critical of the way things go on the air very quickly. And the television deals, most specifically, are the ones that bug me. I mean, MRN is MRN, PRN's PRN. They're going to be there regardless. MRN covers all the races at all the tracks that are owned by NASCAR. PRN covers all the races at all the tracks owned by Speedway Motorsports Incorporated because that's how the affiliation goes. And then they kind of trade off on the ones and the very few tracks that are not owned by either. They kind of trade off on those. And they do a very good job. IndyCar Radio Network, much the same way, do a very good job of covering the races for the IndyCar series. Then you go to TV. And I understand that weather comes into play here and there are other factors that come into play. I get that. But I've seen this before. I remember being a kid. Well, not really a kid, a teenager. In the days of the first United States Football League, 1983 to 1986. And it was so fledgling at that point in time that ABC was in a situation where they weren't really sure whether or not they were going to get really, really good ratings or not. So if, for example, here in Birmingham, if the game wasn't the Birmingham Stallions, it was some other pair of teams that were playing, and the game ran a little bit long, they might just dump out of the game and go to their regular programming. And you're left to sit here and go, hello, wait a minute, what happened to the game? Where's the game? What happened to the game? Do yourself a favor, go back to the 1960s and just figure this out by Googling the Heidi game. Look up the furor over that. It caused a lot of networks to change their mind when it came to how they televise sports. That brings me to NBC. The fine folks at NBC Sports, I get it. It's an Olympic year. We got the Summer Olympics coming up. Summer Olympics are always a popular thing. While the Summer Olympics are going on, the thing about it is all those trials leading up to the Summer Olympics, not as necessarily that big of a draw.
Nope.
But yet I'm up here at the radio station for one of our sister stations in the building, and I'm running a Birmingham Barons AA baseball game and happen to be able to have a TV off to the side with the sound down, and I've got the race on just so that I can kind of keep up with what's going on. And I note that you and I were texting back and forth as well at that point in time. And I happened to notice the fact that they got to the end of stage 2 after a rain delay. Okay, cool. Race is rolling along. Weather looks good. Looks like we're going to get it in. Fantastic. Maybe it'll end right about the same time the game does, and I'll get the game in and the race in, and I'll be good for the afternoon, right? Then I happen to look over, and they're running a track and field event on NBC. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, wait a minute. I know stage 3 didn't go that fast. Stage 3 was what, 100 laps-ish?
Yes, 110.
Okay. So knowing that there was no way in the 5 minutes or so that they were able to get 110 laps in, I sent him a text. Incredulous. Did NBC actually just switch to track and field?
And let me...
Yeah, we'll get the quote here just to make sure that we got that right. But yeah, I was incredulous about this. Did NBC just switch to track and field?
Yeah. Your words were, did NBC just do an all-out switch to track and field? I came back with a quote of, in the words of Samuel L. Jackson in Pulp Fiction, correctamundo.
To which I responded with, and this is literal, I put WTF.
3 question marks, 2 exclamation points to be exact.
Explain this to me, NBC. You just spent millions of dollars to re-up with NASCAR on a contract that begins next year and runs through 2031. I get it. You spent a lot of money to get the rights to the Olympics as well. But kind of like radio, you're in the business to get viewers in television. In radio, we're in it to get listeners. I asked the question, WTF? Look at the ratings. And I would love to be able to find out the ratings for this. But if you compare the ratings to what the Cup Series race was doing compared to what the track and field event was doing when they made the switch, I can guarantee you the Cup Series race was blowing track and field out of the water.
I'm sure it was.
Because, again, we go back to this whole idea of what is the king of the ratings world when it comes to sports on television? It's very simple. The NFL rules. We get that. We know that. Everybody in the sports world knows here in the United States of America, the National Football League is the king of television ratings. Number 2, college football. Why? We love football. We're a football-crazed nation. But if you look at all the major sports ratings, number 3 on a consistent basis, surprise, surprise, it's the Cup Series. Cup Series races will generally draw 3 to 3.5 million viewers when broadcast on NBC or Fox, or way back when it used to be on either ABC or CBS. Didn't matter. Consistently 3 to 3.5 million viewers. Yes, that beats Major League Baseball. Yes, that beats the NBA. Yes, that beats the NHL. Average run-of-the-mill Major League Baseball, NHL, MLB, NBA game, 1.5, maybe 2 million. Depends on the matchup. Think about that for a couple of minutes, would you? And what did they do? Spending all those millions of dollars with the NBC broadcast, shunted it right over to USA, left everybody hanging. For what? So you could drop, 3 million of your 3.5 million viewers?
Probably.
It's a good job, NBC.
Probably so.
It's a good job. Congratulations on creating a television mess.
You goofed.
That's mess number 1. You ready to go to mess number 2? Well, 2 and 3. Or no, wait a minute.
Yeah.
2, 3, and 4 as we go to NASCAR, and specifically the weekend in Nashville, Tennessee at the race called the Ally 400. The Ally 400, well, it started off with that weird situation that we talked about, not this past weekend, but a week and a half ago on the big 2-hour Saturday show. NASCAR's got themselves a new little formula for qualifying. And you're thinking to yourself, wait a minute, there's a formula for qualifying?
You mean the Ally 441?
Oh, well, that's true too. We'll get back to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's now a formula for qualifying. It's no longer how many cars started the race on?
That would be 38, Steve.
Okay. So 38 cars started the race last Sunday. Normally, when you qualify, you take your 38 cars and you line them all up in qualifying, and the person who goes fastest sits on the pole, and the person who goes slowest starts 38th, right?
Correct.
Sure. Not anymore.
You asked the question, what are we talking about? Let's give you this example here. And I'm going to detail the top 10 out. You have your pole sitter, Denny Hamlin. He took his FedEx Toyota at a time of 29.859, which equates to 160.354. Your outside pole sitter, Josh Berry, he took his Overstock.com Ford at a 29.972 at 159.749.
Who was slower on that one?
That'd be Josh Berry.
Okay.
So 1, 2 makes sense.
Sure.
Are we sure about that?
Not really.
Your third place starter, Christopher Bell, in his DeWalt Concrete Solutions Toyota, he posted a time of 29.954 at 159.845.
So that normally would make him slotted right where?
That would be second.
Normally.
In a common sense filled world.
Sure.
Okay. As the line in Forrest Gump goes, it said, I may not be a smart man. I might not be a smart man, but I know that 29.954 is faster than 29.972.
Yeah. Not by much, but it is.
Oh, but wait, it gets better.
Oh, sure it does.
Kyle Larson at 29.981 at 159.70. That's the correct spot based off of the time. Fifth, Brad Keselowski took his consumer cellular Ford at a 30.012. Then you have Tyler Reddick taking his Monster Energy Toyota at a 30 flat. Last I checked, a 30 flat is faster than a 30.012.
But yet Brad Keselowski started before him.
Yes.
NASCAR has decided somewhere down the line that because they've got group qualifying, so to speak, you got Group A, you got Group B. They go out and practice in Group A so you don't have all 38 cars out on the track at one time. I get that. Okay. Then you got Group B. This is all done by a random draw. Well, they go out qualifying the same way. Well, if you happen to be randomly in Group A, let's put myself in that situation. I'm randomly in Group A, and I run this 30 flat that you just referenced here.
Sure.
And he gets there, and he runs in Group B, and he runs, I'll just say, 29.975. But because I'm Group A, I get to start on this particular lane, which may actually put me in front of him because they've decided that it depends on which group you're in more than it matters how fast I went versus how fast he went.
Yeah.
Can we go back to keeping it simple, stupid, and understand that the faster the person is, the better qualifying position they get? And they'll sit there and they'll go, well, the track conditions may have changed. The weather may have changed. We've been dealing with this for, 75 years now?
75 years, yeah.
Because NASCAR is a largely outdoor sport.
Yeah.
Because it's really, really difficult to keep the people awake when they're being suffocated by exhaust fumes. So you can't run it in a dome. You can't run it in an enclosed environment. So your tracks, they're outside. Okay? Right. What happens when you're outside? Well, you might get some cloud cover at one point in time or another.
Sure.
Or the sun may come up a little bit more. You might start qualifying very early in the morning, and by the time you get done, it's an hour and a half later, and the sun's risen a little bit higher, and the track got a little bit hotter. So Group B, track wasn't quite as hot as it was in Group A. All the drivers know that. All the drivers understand that. Stop trying to make it all even and make sure that everybody's feelings are all taken care of.
And the bad part about this is they had Group B as the inside lane. Group A was the outside lane.
And I have no idea what the heck sense that makes.
What are we doing?
I don't know. And here's the thing. I don't really know that NASCAR knows either.
They have a very, lately, they have a very high tendency of trying to fix things that are not broken.
Yeah. NASCAR seems to love to do that.
They love to do that.
I don't know why.
So, when you share a thought on this via Twitter, that's what I still call it, and you say dear, and you put the hashtag NASCAR to where it's visibly for everybody to see. Mm-hmm. If you go just put NASCAR, I said, can we go back to, you've seen what I said.
I did.
Can we go back to keeping it simple as, fastest man starts first, slowest man starts 38th, and so forth? Monday, I look up and I see a like that's on there.
Mm.
None other than Christopher Bell liked it.
Amen. Even the drivers are into that situation.
Yeah.
So that was qualifying. Then we get into the race. Let's start off with Kyle Larson and Denny Hamlin, shall we? Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin, not exactly known for. At one point in time, these guys were riding on the same plane to races, even though that they race for two different teams and two different manufacturers.
Yeah.
I don't think they're even on each other's Christmas cards list anymore. They're about, 8 to 10 run-ins that these two have had on tracks over the last, 2-3 years?
A few.
Yeah. The latest one happened on Sunday, where Kyle Larson pulled a racing move that I have seen Denny Hamlin pull untold number of times. Could not even tell you how many times. As they're coming down to take the final lap for stage 2, it's all about stage points, remember. Kyle Larson's looking for a point. So's Denny Hamlin. Kyle Larson happens to get down inside of Denny Hamlin through turns, I think it was 1 and 2.
1 and 2.
And happens to start washing the 11 car up. Not just slamming into him or anything like that. He just kind of gets a little bit close to him, makes Denny Hamlin start to push wide, and soon enough, you're up into an area where you got to back off the accelerator. Denny Hamlin had to do that. Therefore, Kyle Larson goes on, he claims the spot, and he gets that spot and that point at the end of stage 2. Well, Denny Hamlin decided to show his displeasure by going up and ramming into the back bumper of Kyle Larson's car, not once, not twice, but I think 3 times.
That would be 3.
Prompted, from what I heard later, both his spotter and his crew chief to jump on the radio and tell Denny to settle the heck down and we'll figure it all out later.
Oh, Gabehart crawled him.
And
Chris Gabehart
should
crawled him.
have. And should have. This isn't Days of Thunder, change my tires. I'm going out on a pit road and I'm taking out the idiot who took over the other car. No, this isn't that. This is real life, boys and girls. This isn't Hollywood. This isn't a movie. If you're ticked off with another driver about it, okay, 1 bump to the back bumper, let him know your displeasure. Then go talk to him after the race. Don't sit there and do something that under caution might cause untold problems.
The bad part about this entire thing was that's not a dirty move.
No.
That was not a dirty move. I've seen that move done, and I've actually done that very same move on a dirt track.
I said
it's clean.
I said it leading into this, and I'll say it again. It's a move I've seen Denny Hamlin make untold number of times in his career dating back to the mid-2000s.
Yeah, several.
Denny Hamlin's done this move.
Oh, yeah.
So if you can dish it out, you better dang well learn how to take it.
I'll say this, Denny. I'm growing to respect you a lot as a car owner and how you are vocal from a car owner standpoint, because a lot of things you say from the car owner's hat on top of your skull is straight up and good. Mm-hmm. I have coined you on our weekend show. I've always said the most dangerous car, in a positive light, the most dangerous car owner in the sport is Justin Marks. Mm-hmm. and I've put you in that category.
Sure, he's up there.
He's up there from a car owner standpoint. But from a driving standpoint and how you don't like this or don't like that, you're getting onto the level of Martin Truex. Martin Truex will complain worse than anyone of how you get raced. If I don't touch you and I pull a clean move on you to make a pass, fair game.
Yeah, all's fair in love and war.
So, Denny, I'll say this. Put your big boy panties on and drive the dadgum car.
Yeah. If you don't like how Kyle Larson raced you, go out and beat him on the track.
Jeez.
That's a rookie move. Which brings us to Carson Hocevar. Yeah, Carson Hocevar has had a pretty respectable rookie year.
I would agree.
Okay. I mean, he's driving for Spire Motorsports, and Spire Motorsports is still trying to find their sea legs, so to speak. He's had
the Spire flag planted in his window, and he's been flying it all year long.
Yeah. And he's been the main bearer of the Spire Motorsports flag, too, with all due respect to the veteran over there, Corey LaJoie. Carson Hocevar's been kind of eating Corey LaJoie's lunch. Yeah. And at this point in time, to me, is the leader in the clubhouse for Rookie of the Year. I like what the kid's doing. The kid seems to have a pretty good head on his shoulders for the most part. But Sunday, and I didn't see this, and I don't know all the details about it, but he and the 21, Wood Brothers number 21, he and Harrison Burton got themselves entangled into a race, and I don't know. You probably know the details better than I do.
I didn't even see what happened. All I seen was that he turned him on the backstretch under caution.
Yeah, you don't do that.
No.
So again, some little situation happened between the two of them. Caution flag flies, just happens to, because it wasn't one of the two of them that had the problem. So the caution flag flies. Here comes Carson Hocevar pulling a Denny Hamlin situation on Kyle Larson. He goes over there. He taps on the back bumper of the 21 of Harrison Burton. Again, from what I understand, not just once, not just twice, but 3 times. This case, not just to express displeasure, this time he specifically spun the 21 around.
Well, the third lick was in the right rear corner.
Yeah. And again, we just talked about that. This creates a dangerous situation because you're bunching the whole field up under caution. And you're not going that fast, but you also are in a situation where you can't necessarily react all that quickly. So as you spin one car around, this could create a multiple car wreck. And I get it, at pace road, at pit road speeds, that doesn't seem like the biggest problem, but still, a wreck is a wreck. And that's a lot of money, even if it's not an injury to another driver. Very dangerous situation. As of the time that we began recording this, and yeah, we're recording it a day early because, we've got a short day tomorrow here at the main offices of the Cross Flags podcast, so we're going to be able to bug out early. So yeah, we're able to do it today. We haven't heard a penalty yet, but if there's not a penalty for this dangerous maneuver done by Carson Hocevar, NASCAR again is doing it wrong. Now, he's a rookie. He's 150 to 160 points behind the cutoff.
Yes.
It's probably not going to point his way into the playoffs. If he's going to get into the playoffs, he's going to have to win a race to get in. How do you hurt a rookie? You hit him in the wallet. Points fine ain't going to do it. Give him a massive monetary fine for dangerous actions on the track. Nip this one. Stop it. End it right here, right now. Don't let it continue. Don't let him think that he's going to be able to do it again and get away with a slap on the wrist. Smack him hard. Make sure he understands that's not acceptable. Do this one right, NASCAR. Do this one right.
They pulled quite a few choke jobs over the weekend. Nashville was not their best weekend overall. But, and another thing too, when you have a car that gets listed as caught into the accident that happens in turn 2 on one of the restarts, you look up and one of the said cars in accident gets his position back, which was 4th at the time. but he's listed as in the accident and is officially on the DVP clock.
That would be in an accident. Yep. Mm-hmm.
And Brad Moran, the series director, which is another genius, I might add, he says the quote of, let me just find it here. Here we go. Well, it may take me a minute, but
paraphrase it. That's fine.
They determined that he was able to maintain his speed and he got his spot back, but he came to a dead stop on the track.
That's a no-no.
Over 60% of the field passed him after the caution flew. Before the caution flew,
that's a no-no. That's always been a no-no.
But
we've seen so many drivers penalized for that.
Did they just because he's had some of the worst luck these last 4 weeks,
And he has.
Okay.
So what, are we trying to change his luck for him?
98% of it not to his doing. But we're going to give him his spot back? Was that out of sympathy? What? Why?
Yeah. No
and
idea.
another thing too, when Chase Elliott spun off of 4 by himself, a lot of people really didn't realize he got a spot back. It got called out on one of the Dirty Mo Media shows this week by 3 spotters that they do the show of. They was like, what are they doing? One spot's for Bubba Wallace, one spot's for Brad Keselowski, and the other one is a retired part-time spotter. So I'm pretty sure they know what
They know what's going on.
What? I don't understand.
And then one more note. The race went into a NASCAR Cup Series record, 5 overtimes.
Yeah.
Now, if you've watched racing for any length of particular time, you know the classic phrase, cautions breed cautions. I don't know who coined the phrase, but it's so apt, and it has worked so well for not just years, decades. So we understand that. Cautions breed cautions. But the thing about it is, I seem to remember a whole lot of Cup Series drivers being very, very loud, complaining about how sloppy the racing was last, November at Phoenix in the Craftsman Truck Series race. Which, how many overtimes did that go?
4.
4.
3, 4.
Okay.
Ish.
They were complaining about how sloppy and how rough the racing was in the Craftsman Truck Series race and the championship race last November in Phoenix. All of a sudden, they're really, really quiet about how sloppy the racing was last Sunday at the Ally 400.
Oh, extremely.
Because here's the deal. From what I understand, and again, I didn't get the chance to see it because they flipped from NBC to USA for track and field.
Sure.
From what I can tell, most people attribute at most 2 of those overtime caution flags to somebody running out of gas, which means the other 3 mean on-track incidents, which tells me sloppy racing. So do we call ourselves out, or are we just going to save our criticism for the fine folks down at the Craftsman Truck Series? Or can you look in the mirror? You know, Denny Hamlin not included, because obviously people racing me one way, I can race them this way, but they can't race me that way.
He pitted at the proper time to be able to get fuel and not look like an idiot standing out front trying to win and pull what Kyle Larson did. Car stumbles, wrecks 2 or 3 cars behind him, causes another caution. Okay, he came in and got fuel, to which I still don't see how Joey Logano ran 110 laps on 1 tank of fuel.
Oof.
When I know all Fords are tuned the same, they have the same engine tune, and get virtually the same fuel mileage.
The only thing, and I'll do my level best to state that there wasn't something that was amiss with the 22 and state that that's a veteran move of understanding how to conserve fuel. And I might be being generous. Sorry, Joey, but yeah, maybe I'm being generous. I don't know. It's a rookie move to go on a restart, slam the accelerator down, whereas Joey Logano understands, hey, we're a little bit tight. Maybe I need to roll on the accelerator or roll off, be a little smoother, not jam on it. That's where I'm going to lay the credit. As to whether that's the truth, I don't know.
I don't know either. Don't know either.
But yeah, if you have 5 overtime restarts, that's a mess. And you were calling out the Craftsman Truck Series. Call yourselves out. Call yourselves out.
Yerp.
And that'll bring us to the fine folks over at we've already dealt with NASCAR and NBC, so we're going to move on and talk about Formula One. Because they had an on-track incident too. Max Verstappen has been very dominant over the last, 3 years?
That's an understatement.
He's won practically everything that he can possibly win. He went from a situation where he was a driver with no championships and a handful of wins to a guy who suddenly has 3 straight drivers' titles in Formula One and is now well over 50 races won, which means he's climbing up that all-time wins chart on Formula One. Just like that.
At a very rapid pace.
That picture right there happened with, less than 10 laps to go.
Less than 10.
Where he and Lando Norris are battling it out for the lead in the Austrian Grand Prix.
They're running each other hard, and they're running each other clean.
Or were.
Keyword. Were.
Until they started going into a turn, and the two of them got into each other. Lando Norris got the worst of it. He ended up taking the car into the pits. They looked at the car and said, we can't do it. They had to retire the car. So he finishes outside of the points. 20 cars start in Formula One. Only the top 10 claim championship points.
That's the one thing I didn't understand is all he did was make contact with a right retire. Left retire Verstappen.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't understand that. Because nothing was ripped off the car that I could visibly see. The front wing wasn't torn up. Change the tire and go. Verstappen did.
Yeah. Maybe there was something more wrong with the car than what we know.
Did it bend the suspension on the front end?
Maybe it did.
I don't know.
Either way, they retired him. He finishes outside the points. Max Verstappen has to come in. He changes tires, as you noted, and he goes back out onto the track. He ends up finishing 5th. And Formula One, we can complain about Formula One and their rule book, which, from everything that we can tell, NASCAR's rule book seems to be about yay thick. Okay? In comparison, Formula One's rule book seems to be about yay thick. But race stewards did an investigation, and they determined that Max Verstappen was warranted a penalty, a standard penalty for causing a collision, and slapped him 10 seconds. Now, it didn't hurt him because 6th place was Nico Hülkenberg, who was 18 seconds back at the finish. Mm-hmm. So the 10-second penalty didn't hurt him at all. He still finished 5th. Nico Hülkenberg still finished 6th. That right there is a mess, though. I don't know exactly what the situation was. Understand that you still have 8, 9, 10 laps left here. And you've been racing clean so far. Why all of a sudden are we getting so whacked out, impatient, and saying, I got to make the pass now? You don't.
This is me talking with a helmet on. When I saw the accident happen, Lando made that move out of greed.
Okay.
He's seen an opening.
And relative inexperience, because stop and consider it again. We just talked about how he's the 3-time defending champion with 50 race wins. Lando Norris, no championships, and one win on his career?
One.
So this comes with experience on one level, but at the same time, you're in the big time and you're in a car that can suddenly win races. You better learn when you can make a move and when not to. And you're the driver. I'm not.
McLaren has woken up in a massive way lately.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Secondly, he made the move to the wrong side of Verstappen, going to the outside in a right-hander. No.
If you can make that move, make it to the inside.
Make it to the inside, and if you miss it on the inside, If your next corner, which I think the next corner in Austria was a left-hander, back up, pull the crossover.
There you go.
That's common sense. But they give Lando the 5-second penalty, but give Max a 10-second penalty because Max retaliated. Max just swerved over and hit him back. That's where the 10-second penalty came from.
Yeah.
But Lando, calculate your move better.
Yeah.
If you'd have calculated it and took a little bit more patience, you win the race.
Yeah. And now all of a sudden you got your second win of your career instead of a wrecked car and no points.
And then next thing you know, here comes Mercedes getting their first win of the year, and now they think they've got life.
Yeah.
Which,
No. We've looked at the points. We follow the points during the weekend show. And if you follow us on the weekends as well, you know Mercedes is so far out of first they need binoculars.
Yeah.
Actually, they're so far out of second they need binoculars. Forget first.
They're that far out of third.
Yeah. So, yeah, this weekend is full of messes. A lot of messes. Can we go back again? NASCAR, simplify things. Stop trying to fix things that aren't broken. Simplify qualifying again. If Matt runs faster than me in qualifying, Matt starts ahead of me. If I run faster than Matt in qualifying, Matt, sorry, you start behind me in qualifying. You'll beat me during the race anyway because you're more experienced. Please. Number one. Number two, drivers. If one driver races you one way that you've raced everybody else, get over it. And Lando, still got a little bit of growing up to do.
Calm down, mate. Calm down.
You're a good driver in fantastic equipment. Wins will come. Make sure that you're calculated about it so that your equipment is there, because the way to win a race is to finish it first.
If that happens 5 laps sooner, Oscar Piastri wins that race.
Mm-hmm. And correct me if I'm wrong, Oscar Piastri drives for McLaren. See where we're going with the whole idea that McLaren's woken up? There you have it. Well, all of us, all three of us, I'll speak for the non-speaking Molly, producer Molly, by saying all of us here wish you a very, very happy and safe 4th of July. If you got fireworks, be real careful out there, because the last thing you need is to go from this many fingers to that many fingers.
Well, I'll go ahead and say I'm working on acquiring tannerite. I'm blowing something up.
Do it from a distance.
I'm blowing something up.
Yeah, do it from a distance. I've had a little fun with tannerite. Do it from a distance, boys and girls. Have a good time. Have a safe time. Be careful. Eat a lot of hot dogs, hamburgers. Celebrate the fact that we are now, as a country, 248 years free. And if you're critical of what's going on in Washington, D.C., pray that we stay that way. And we'll talk to you on Saturday. Yeah, we're going to have a live show Saturday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central Time on the Championship Racing Network. Hope you join us then. And next week, correct me if I'm wrong, Producer Molly, we're back to regular schedule on Wednesdays. We are. So we'll join you next Wednesday right here on Crossed Flags. Again, happy 4th of July, and we'll talk to you Saturday.
You've been listening to Crossed Flags, a racing podcast. For more content like this, subscribe to CRN Live on YouTube, and you'll be set to catch the 2-hour live show every Saturday morning at 9 Eastern, 8 Central.
This has been a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.